Welcome to Lee Pitts Live. We're here at the American Legion, Post 38, downtown Fort Myers, to celebrate one of the most important events, or the most important event in the Western Hemisphere, specifically as it relates to Africans. That is the freeing of Africans. It's known as Juneteenth. Happened in 1865. The Emancipation Proclamation was in 63, and it was 2 years later that the message got down to Galveston, Texas, and was delivered to the slaves in Texas that they had been freed as well. The Union made its way there, and it is now known around the world as Juneteenth. Here, an organization called Africa in All of Us, headed up by Cabino, is having a celebration that we've all come out to participate in. We're fortunate enough, as you can hear the African music in the background, which is great. We're fortunate enough to have a renowned professor here of Black history, of African history, who will be speaking tonight as well at this Juneteenth celebration. We're gonna get a chance to talk to him right now. Lodovic Kimble, come on down. As Lodovic Kimble makes his way and gets seated, you will see that he's nattily attired in his African outfit, and I'm sure he's got a wardrobe of that at home. Let me get you to sit up to the edge of that chair a little bit. Just come on, slide your body up to the edge. And so let's get a chance to talk to this scholar that we're so blessed to have in the community. He also sells African art. I bought a nice piece from him tonight that he has an exhibit out there that we'll probably get our cameras out there later on. Lodovic Kimble, welcome again to Lee Pitts Live.
Thank you, Brother Pitts.
Just off the top, we are listening to some music from the motherland right there.
Yes, sir.
And when we're listening to it, it sounds, people might say, well, that sounds like Caribbean music. Caribbean music, African music, those rhythms, it's all in one big pot, huh?
That's right. Caribbean music, African American music has its origin on the continent of Africa. So it's not surprising that it sounds the same, because you can take us out of Africa, but you can't take the Africa out of us.
Okay. Before we get going, tell us what did you decide to wear tonight?
Well, I have well, this is called the dashiki, but it's from Liberia. A pair of white pants, some sandals.
You told me.
And a kufi.
Yeah.
And a kufi.
You told me that you got to get you some authentic stuff. You're looking at my stuff like
I'm looking at your Lee Pitts. You got an American-made dashiki. I want you to have an African dashiki.
Okay. People out there saying, well, we don't know the difference. How can you tell the difference?
You can tell the difference because you can look at that's printed on there. Painted. This is designed by women from the different types of dyes from plants that they use to create this. This is created in the United States, so you can look at the colors and see that you probably won't ever find a dashiki out of Africa that's all purple like that. Mm-hmm. You may find a whole gown that's purple, but you won't find that pattern. The patterns are a little bit different.
When did you first get into this whole being a Black American? When did you first get into the consciousness about your ancestry in Africa? I mean, ever since I've known you, you've been a very conscious brother, but did that happen in college and high school? When did you really?
It actually happened in high school. I grew up during the Civil Rights Movement. For one, I grew up during the time of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. I went to school during segregation where we had all the conflict. And in fact, one of the things that you'll see on Facebook is me initiating joining a white club at my high school called the Southern Gentlemen. It only allowed white kids. And that year, 4 African-American men decided we were going to join. And the picture I have on Facebook show us standing right out front. Mm-hmm. So that was my first probably activism. But then I went to college at Martin College of Pulaski, Tennessee, the time where the Ku Klux Klan began. I was student personality. I organized the first African History Month cultural program. I brought the Teague Polk players there from Tennessee State University. Oprah Winfrey was one of those. Her father was also my barber. We went to high school together. I brought the Tennessee State Gospel Choir. And I brought Dr. Dorothy Brown, the first Black female surgeon in the South. On my wall at home is a letter written from the chaplain at college said this college will be forever changed because you came here, because you have an influence and you've been a credit to your race. Now today we find that offensive, but in 1971 I realized he was trying to give me a compliment.
Hey, even in modern times, you're constantly being celebrated for your contribution to the culture, modern day culture. Even tonight, you weren't able to go there up in Clearwater.
Right.
You were nominated. Tell people about that award that you're nominated for.
In Clearwater tonight, they're looking at teachers across the state of Florida, and some teachers are going to be honored tonight for the Teacher Human Rights Award. I was asked to submit material. I've already sent a phone call for them telling me that I'm getting something tonight because they asked me to be there. But I couldn't be in two places at one time. I spent 4 days in Fort Lauderdale at a teachers conference on art integration. My wife and I celebrated 39 years of marriage yesterday. I drove back here. There's no way I could have made it Clearwater and been here too. And I thought it was important when Kwabena asked me to come here and speak about the history of slavery.
The fact that we have an event like this taking place on Juneteenth, put on by Corbino, who's a native African
From Ivory Coast.
from the Ivory Coast. What kind of message did that send?
I think it sends a message about the unification of African people. Corbino, as well as Peter, as well as yourself, Shanetta Campbell, and a number of us all believe that we need to be doing more cultural things. So you got Lee Pitts, who sponsor After Hours every so often. You got Corbino, who's doing these activities cultural. You have the African Network doing stuff. You had Shanetta Campbell, who gave a white party, and right now, me, Roy Kennedy,
The Brunson Foundation.
and Mr. Butler are talking about sponsoring open mic at Space 39 in August. So there are a number of us doing things to provide an opportunity for African professionals to get together. And Peter, we have to give you credit for really initiating this. Lee, because when you did your 25th year anniversary, I think you saw the need, you continue it, and the rest of us have jumped on the bandwagon.
Well, I don't really want to take any credit for it. Cats like yourself, supported it, made it happen. I remember people probably don't know this story though, but you and I were downtown hanging out, and we were in the club Celsius, and then I said, hey, I may do some stuff, and then you introduced me to Kip, remember?
Right.
And then time went by. I eventually said, hey, let's do the 25th here. That went over pretty well.
Right.
And then it was 3 years later, it just wears you out to do
right,
it.
yep.
Yeah, everybody like, do it. I was like, no, I have to do it when my show turns 30 years old or something. I'm not looking to do this every, when people want to see it every week and so on, but it's like a lot of work that goes into it.
Right.
But I must say, it's become a really nice thing, and I'm just the front person for it is you guys, everybody in the community who spreads the word, and we come out and we have a good time, and we bring a lot of black professionals downtown Fort Myers. It's called Lee Pitts Live After Work.
That's right.
Everybody get the name right.
That's right.
After hours, Lodovic.
After work, right.
But I understand that. I'm trying to brand that out, Lee Pitts Live After Work. And of all the events that I've been able to put on, Lodovic hasn't missed but one. You think I don't know it, but
That's right.
I think you had to go out of town. You had a death in the family.
Death in the family, wife was sick one time.
Right. So you always come there the best dressed person in there. Hey, they're gonna have a best dressed African thing tonight. You probably win that too. Did you know about that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're supposed to have a best dressed tonight.
Okay.
I know I'm not gonna win on real African stuff. But this is my go-to.
Can't nobody beat Kwabena.
Yeah, he's clean, isn't he?
Yeah, he's clean always.
Man, yeah, he got some nice
From down
outfits.
to the shoes.
He got some nice stuff.
Yes, he
man.
does.
And one thing about Corbino, man, he just has that ability to relate to people.
He does.
He's just a great individual.
Yes, he is.
And when Peter, all the Africans, when I'm around the Africans, it just makes me realize this, that with the smiles and how welcoming Africans are, native Africans, it makes me realize how easy it was back during the days when the Africans were stolen and brought over here as slaves, because the African culture is always so welcoming.
Right.
Is that, I don't know that to be anything historically documented. I'll go to you for that.
It true is to some extent. The Africans and the Native Americans, when they met Europeans for the very first time, they saw them as another group of humans and accepted them. The Native Americans actually thought they were godlike because they were so fair. The sad thing, the nature of the European historically enslaving themselves made it very easy for them to demean other people and continue the enslavement of other people as well. What's far worse is that slavery, at least in Europe, was not chattel. Chattel means we were dehumanized, and that's what happened to the African who was enslaved.
So tonight, this is a good segue into the fact that you've been brought in tonight to give a presentation. Tell us some things that you're going to try to get across in your presentation to the crowd tonight.
Well, the first thing I did my research because I want to know what was going on in Portugal prior to slavery. When I found out that it was a Roman colony, the Romans enslaved everybody that they conquered. And I found that they had been enslaving each other for thousands of years. And then when the Moors came in and ended serfdom and feudalism, the Moors enslaved them, and they enslaved all those different Europeans in that area. And then when the Portuguese ran the Moors out, they imported Japanese, Koreans, people from India, and other Native Americans, and then began to enslave Africans, which they thought they were enslaving other Moors.
And what time period is that that you're talking about right now?
I'm talking about 1500.
Okay. Now, the documentation of slavery here in America, I think I read it was like in the 1600s?
It actually has its origin in 1492 when Cristobal Colon came. When Cristobal Colon came and landed in Santo Domingo, he enslaved 50 Arawaks they called Tainos, and took them to Spain. And Isabel and Ferdinand reprimanded him for enslaving Spanish subjects, told him to take them back. And when he got back here, the Arawaks had killed his men because his men had raped his women.
I see.
And therefore he enslaved 500 more. Ferdinand and Isabel sent his own cousin to arrest him, took him back to Spain. He was on trial, and he died a pauper on the street. He is not a hero in America.
So, to sum it up, tonight you will cover those particular points, and what else will you cover?
I'm going to talk about how slavery lasted 450 years in this country as a formal institution until the Emancipation Proclamation, what happened with Juneteenth, and what happened up until 1492, because there's a book that you need to read called Slavery by Another Name. It didn't end until 11 years before I was born in 1492 by Roosevelt.
You mean not 1492?
1942, excuse me. 1492 is when Columbus came.
Right.
1942, 11 years before I was born, when slavery came to an end.
Right. Now, the interesting period to me is after the Emancipation Proclamation, 1863, and now we know that it was 1865 before the word got all around into Texas,
and
which
Louisiana.
Juneteenth.
Right.
And then, so then you go from 1865, let's say, to 1965.
Right.
Dr. King gives his speech
Right.
in Washington, D.C. 100 years later.
Right.
That period in between there, talk about that period. Why did that, what Abraham Lincoln talked about, why didn't that come into reality? A new president gets into office, and what happens?
Well, when Grant became president, Grant actually eradicated the Klan, encouraged Africans to join the Republican Party. We got your first black elected officials, and white people and Republican Party turned against Africans because the Republican Party really were the ones who ended slavery. Democrats at the time were the racist ones for the most part. So you had the Republican Party make a shift, and the Democratic Party made a shift to begin to fight for social change. But you still didn't have that happen until 1960, because right in 1950, right in this town, they imposed at-large elections to keep Africans and Native Americans and Latinos from getting elected to office. This year, because we changed the single member, with 2 at-large on the school board, we finally got 3 Democrats, an African-American, and the chairman is African-American for the first time. It's a shame that it's taken that long for us to have representation in Lee County.
Finally got it, and it seems like there's a whole lot of friction going on the board with a black chairman of the board. Do you think race has anything to do with that?
Racism is showing itself. And not only that, we even have one Democrat on the board who's not playing her role. Yeah, Gwen's great, but we have one Democrat on the roll who is going along with status quo, so that's part of the problem.
Mm-hmm. When you say racism has raised its head, in what ways?
Racism is never going away in Fort Myers, anywhere in the United States. You and I know when we go to apply for a job that we got to be twice as good to get it. Why we still have to do that? You and I know when we go to the bank to apply for money that we don't get the longest, fastest another man. That's what gentrification's about. You and I know when you and a white man are accused of a crime that you get more time than he gets. Look at what's happening with drugs. We don't own boats and airplanes. We didn't grow the marijuana. People brought in our neighborhood. They didn't get incarcerated. We did. And that's the same thing with prohibition. They didn't get incarcerated. We did.
One of the things that's hot in the news now is reparations for slavery. I think you're not in favor of reparations, or are you in favor of reparations?
Oh, I'm in favor of reparations.
In what form or fashion?
I'm in favor of reparation, but not in the form that we should give every African $1. We probably should take a large amount of money, put it into job training, put it into housing, put it into college, put it into things that's going to help uplift our community for the most part.
Mm-hmm. So you wouldn't take $100,000 they want to give you?
I wouldn't say I wouldn't take it. I just don't think that we're necessarily doing the best good by giving $100,000 to everybody. Mm-hmm. And you and I both know that getting rich doesn't mean that you rise above. There are people who win the lottery and 2 years later they're broke again.
Well, I still believe, I'm just using $100,000 as a round number.
Right.
I still believe, hey, give everybody $100,000 and let the chips fall where they may. It's their $100,000. Just, we can't figure all of that out. But that's another topic,
right, man. Well, we never got our 50 acres and a mule.
Right. We got 40 acres and a mule. Yeah. Back to tonight's event. What would you have to say to Cabino, our brother from the Ivory Coast, about his efforts to bring culture here with an African flavor to Southwest Florida?
Hats off to Cabino or Kwabena, either name you can call him, because he's making an effort to bring African people together. And that's what we need to do.
Mm-hmm. I see that the crowd is starting to file in out there.
Right.
I told people that you sell African art. Right. How can people get in touch with you to see some of your great art? I know I got a nice sculpture carving that I purchased tonight. Right. Talk about your art.
Well, I own an art gallery called Into Africa. I used to have a standing building downtown for 2 years, 1999 to 2001. The rent got too high, so we're not down there right now. We're a virtual art gallery. You could go on Facebook and pull up Into Africa Art Gallery, or you can call me at 239-850-1077 to come and see art. You can walk into my house as a living museum.
Wow, man, that's great. They can also, you need to get on the, some kind of way you need to get on the River District or something list.
Right.
As a
vendor.
Historic.
Right.
Site or something.
Well, I'm talking to Bern Davis now about doing a show from Art at My House.
I think it'd be great.
And I'm talking to Lee County Alliance of Arts about doing a show of my personal collection.
People can also hit you up on Facebook.
They can hit me up on Facebook. You can call me and you come right to my house and purchase right off my wall. In fact, Aib Dean did that 2 days ago.
Right.
His daughter is going away to college. He wanted to buy African stuff for her. He came to my house and he bought a piece of Haitian art and he bought a piece of art out of the continent of Africa.
And you know what? For him to come and buy your art, Aib, that means that he has a great deal of respect for the authenticity, because he's African, of what you have. You don't have some watered down stuff, do you?
No, sir. And not only that, Lee, you and I look up to people like Roy Kennicks and Aib Dean. Those are big brothers. Mm-hmm. And I had that kind of relationship. In fact, I'm wearing a watch tonight that Aib brought me from Japan.
Isn't that nice?
Yes. That's beautiful.
Talk about your necklace. I got a few pieces on. But nothing like this.
I have a piece on that I bought from a young lady from Cameroon from a gallery in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I have another piece on that I bought at a Haitian, at a Jamaican festival, because Jamaicans know that they're African too. I have an ankh on, which is the first religious symbol. The beads are very popular today. Most of us are wearing beads.
Yep.
I'm wearing African band.
Right.
In fact, you and I have this one exactly alike. Because I saw you on Facebook with that band.
Right. I think it's very
similar.
I've been swimming in it, man. Yeah. Where you getting your stuff though? I got mine from Paparazzi.
Well, actually, these two came from Avon, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. This piece here, bought in the airport in Philadelphia.
Nice piece.
And like I said, these come from our gallery, and this came from a Jamaican festival.
Okay. Well, before we wrap this up, what do you hope that people would take from tonight's experience?
I hope that African Americans develop a greater consciousness about who they are. And I'm going to have to say this. I meet too many African Americans who really don't know indigenous Africans. They've got this attitude that somehow indigenous Africans don't like African Americans, and they don't realize what the white man has done. When the Caribbean people come here, they tell them they're better. When the indigenous Africans come here, they tell them they're better. That's divide and conquer to make sure we don't get together. We have to do what we have to do to make sure that African people across the diaspora stand together for social justice.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And tonight, people, you're going to see a wide range of people come through here and hold conversations. African Americans, West Indians, Native Africans, whites, all Hispanics. They're all out there right now enjoying themselves. Leap is Live, of course, is the media sponsor. And we're going to bring you all the sights and sounds of this magnificent event that's taking place right here at the American Legion downtown Fort Myers on Jackson Street, which is bringing culture to Fort Myers.
And if you study anthropology, you will learn that all humans migrated out of Africa. That's why Kabina's name of his program is All Africans Are History, that we have that same history.
Mr. Kimble's always a pleasure, man.
Thank you, my brother.
Hotel.
Hotel.
All right, let me let you go over there and walk off and do your Johnny Carson.
Okay.
As Mr. Kabina, we'll be right back with more Leap is Live.